Welcome everyone back to the Awful Takes podcast on a very special day. This is going to be a newly branded kind of episode. Basically, we're going to be reacting. Well, not reacting. We already watched it. We're just going to be talking about the new Superman trailer. I did not want to wait until this weekend to get it recorded. I called Wallied and said, let's just do it right now. Let's talk about it. We'll get it uploaded. This episode probably won't be on Spotify. I don't know for sure yet, just because I don't really think this is going to be like a fully, thought out episode. It's just going to be kind of our blank reactions and things like that. Walid, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited. Obviously, today I woke up at 6:30. I showered, got ready, and I waited for the countdown of this trailer. Waleed, I assume you probably didn't get up early for this.
Yeah, I woke up a little later. I woke up at like 7:30. Um,
Okay, perfect.
yeah, so a bit of like a late
Uh,
bird.
so for those of you guys who don't know, this is a channel where we talk about movies, music, things like that. However, again, this is just going to be our own special episode regarding the newest trailer for Superman coming out in 2026. Um,
2025.
this is this is a movie I've been hyping up for a long time. I just first thought this is obviously my most anticipated movie of next year. Superman pretty much is my favorite hero, and he has
Mhm.
been for the past pretty much 15, 20 years of my life. So obviously I'm super excited for this. Just a little preamble, I guess. For those of you guys who don't know, James Gunn is directing this new Superman movie. However, he's not only starting this Superman movie, he is actually president of the new DC universe, the DC studios that was made.
Thank God.
So yeah, exactly. They are starting fresh. They are pretty much getting rid of everything that had to do with Zack Snyder over the past, 10 years.
Mhm.
Just because the reaction for that whole franchise wasn't too highly looked upon. Obviously, there were some movies to come out that were good, some that were just pretty much awful, if I'm just being honest. And most of them were just didn't have the greatest reactions. Um, so when James Gunn was given the title of president for this new universe, he wanted to start fresh, recast people, and he was going to kick it off with this live action Superman movie. Obviously, right now he has an animated show that's being released on Max that I guess technically would be kind of the start of this new universe. But so far, everyone has just been waiting to see what James Gunn has cooking up. Um, and today we got to see it. So obviously, I was super excited. The trailer opens up with this amazing shot of Superman just falling into the ice. I'm assuming he's in that near the Fortress of Solitude, and he's
Mhm.
just laying on the ground. And obviously, he appears to be injured. He's bleeding, and already, I'm just gonna say it, the color palette in this movie is amazing. Waleed, I mean, what did you get from those first couple shots with Superman falling, the colors on his costume? How were you feeling about that?
I really loved it. Like it honestly reminded me of like his most recent Suicide Squad film and just how like even like the more grayish colors were like popping out and everything and I just loved it so much.
It
Especially compared to
really
like a Man of Steel.
Exactly. Like the colors just didn't seem to be muted. The colors were just totally just popping on screen. The moment you see him laying in the snow, you see his costume. The blues are not dark blues, it's a very bright blue. And then it cuts to shots of him walking throughout the city. And again, nothing's muted, nothing feels like it has this grain to it. Everything looks like perfectly clear. Um, I guess a little behind the scenes info. I guess this whole movie is actually being shot with IMAX cameras. And honestly, you can really tell by just the colors that are coming off the screen right at you. Again, it's a total contrast to a movie like Man of Steel,
Yeah.
where the colors were just super muted. Everything just kind of had a weird tone to it.
Mhm.
This to me just looked absolutely perfect. Um, so Superman's obviously just laying on the ground, and it's intercut with shots of him like walking through the city. And he's just obviously, I'm assuming he just battled someone and he just got his ass kicked and
Yeah,
he
it seems
just
like
like
it,
fell in the snow.
yeah.
Um, what a way to start a trailer. Like, if I'm just being honest, like that would just caught my attention right away. I was just like, this is like uh, a very interesting first look at Superman. Obviously, he's just being defeated. I think that's great because one of the complaints I hear with Superman in general is just people say he's a little too overpowered, you know? Like,
Mhm.
what challenges does Superman really face because he is so strong, you know? And to have our first look into this universe that it's like, no, actually, this Superman has challenges. He's he's gonna get beat up. It's not just him being, super strong to start with. I think that was a great first look into this Superman story. Wally, do you kind of have that sentiment when it comes to Superman? Do you feel like his character can be overpowered? Does that affect you when watching his stories or his movies, things like that?
Yeah, it definitely can because I feel like sometimes Superman is so powerful that it's like, well, what kind of challenges can he face, you know?
But basically, when this kind of trailer kicks off, you are basically greeted by a newer rendition of John Williams' Superman theme. Um, right away, these electric guitars come in. Sounds really awesome. Wallied, what do you think of that?
That music was incredible. I loved the just different rendition of it and like the first half of the trailer where it was kind of leaning in like that kind of rock sound. And then the second half
Hmm.
is all like super grand and epic. And I thought it was just so perfect to like progress that theme even more.
No, I agree. I feel like obviously when it comes to John Williams, he's one of the greatest composers ever. And he has those iconic themes. Superman definitely being one of them. I guess I'll talk about it for a bit. When Hans Zimmer kind of came on to do Man of Steel, I was super excited. Obviously, I thought Hans Zimmer did really good with the Dark Knight trilogy. And he took that soundtrack in a different direction that for me actually really ended up working. I know for some people at that point, Hans Zimmer was kind of known for just kind of repeating himself by that point. However, I feel like he had a good modernization of a Superman theme, you know. However, when James Gunn was starting this universe, I I for me what it is when it comes to DC, they're iconic with their themes compared to what they do at Marvel. I feel like Marvel outside of the Avengers, they don't really focus on those iconic themes. So when DC's rebooting, I feel like you need those themes. You need reoccurring music. That's just the one thing that I feel that Marvel severely lacks in. Waleed, I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I felt the same way for a long, long time. You know, I feel like it just kind of feels like that temp music type of thing where it just sounds like other scores from other movies, and then just other times
Exactly.
it sounds like
It,
just kind of forgettable. Like it doesn't really like stand out in any way, you know? It's just kind of there, you know, like a lot of the cinematography is sometimes.
it just feels like you said, like kind of just like by the numbers kind of soundtracks, by the numbers kind of shots.
Mhm.
Um, so when it comes to James Gunn, obviously I was kind of curious, like, oh, I didn't know for sure. I wouldn't say worried, but I was definitely
Curious.
cautious. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I obviously James Gunn is known for bringing in those soundtracks, like with Guardians. Like he brought in a bunch of great music throughout that whole trilogy.
Mhm.
That music's obviously it was already written beforehand. And same with his Suicide Squad movie. So when I heard it, obviously he was doing Superman. One of my worries was, okay, is he gonna do that kind of same thing? Are we gonna hear like kind of like pop songs or
Like different
uh,
renditions almost of like the soundtrack.
e- exactly. And I guess he has said on in interviews and on Twitter and stuff that he's actually not really gonna have too much kind of outside music
Hmm.
for this movie. He is gonna have more of a traditional kind of score, more of the things that we're used to when it comes to DC and their movies, you know.
Mhm.
And obviously, I feel like in this trailer, it works. Like your brain knows that soundtrack, yet hearing it with this new electric guitar, man, like I was getting chills. I was I was just like on the very cusp of starting to cry. Like I don't know what it was, but hearing that new rendition just man, it worked for me. And I'm so excited to hear the rest of the music that throughout this movie. And honestly, if they even wanted to use the actual theme, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't really be opposed to it. I just feel like it just depends on how they integrate it into the film.
Yeah, I'm definitely very
Um,
curious to see how that'll play out.
yeah, and it's nice to see James Gunn doing a score for this movie because honestly, it I feel like he hasn't done that for well, he's had scores in his movies, but again, like the focal point is
The
usually
soundtracks.
those
Yeah.
the soundtrack, you know.
Mhm.
So anyways, past a couple shots, we get our introduction to Crypto. The
God,
moment he
he looks
whistled,
fantastic.
I was like,
Yeah.
no way are they gonna show him. And I was like, that was the first thought that went through my head. I was like, are we gonna see Crypto right now? And you see the smoke of something running up to Superman, and I swear I was so happy. Um, and obviously they cut to closer shots. Crypto looks amazing. He has his cape on. Again, this is something that James Gunn does. He takes things that you don't think will work. I mean, again, like we talked about it before, Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad. That shouldn't have worked, but he makes it work. Um, as far as regards to Crypto, like that's just something that has never been done in a live action Superman, and James Gunn is not afraid to put that in this movie. Wallied, how do you think Crypto looked? Like, were you excited?
Yeah, he looked incredible. He looked even better than when I saw that picture that we got a couple months ago. Like, it
Yeah,
looks perfect, you know. I loved just the little thing that Superman told him also. He's like, "Take me home," and the dog just takes him. That was like so sick.
yeah. It just grabs him by the cape, and he's
Yeah.
obviously just he's rescuing him. And I don't know. I think we're seeing a little bit of the same kind of CGI we saw on Cosmo in Guardians 3.
Hmm.
It kind of has that same kind of quality to it. Um, However, it doesn't bother me. The CGI for me actually really works for Crypto. It to me it looked pretty fluid. It didn't stand out in any way. They could have just said like that was just straight up a dog, and I would have believed it.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a dog. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess the tricks he uses when it comes to this is on set he has a reference point. They have a dog there, and then they kind of touch it up with CGI. So
Okay.
it's like a nice blend of the both.
That's really cool.
Um, yeah. So past that point, the trailer just kicks it up. Right after Crypto grabs him, we see a shot of Superman saving a young girl from this explosion. And then we see shots of Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor. He looks great. um,
Perfect
one of the
casting.
things with yeah, one of the things with Lex Luthor that I'm excited about is Nicholas Holt as an actor. I think he's very um, kind of looked over in today's day and age. I feel like this is something that he can kind of sink his teeth into, and
Yeah.
with a director like James Gunn, I feel like he might pull out a new side of Nicholas Holt that we haven't seen as an actor. Wallied, what do you think of Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor? Are you a Nicholas Holt fan? What do you think of him as an actor in general?
I actually do really love Nicholas Hoult. I actually think he's a really underrated, underappreciated actor from like the few things that I've seen him in, like The Menu, like the
Hmm.
X-Men prequels that he was in where he played Beast. I
Yeah,
thought he was really fantastic in that. So it's nice to kind of see him go back to doing like a comic book movie again, and especially playing like a villain this time around because I feel like he's really good at playing those like really unlikable, like kind of asshole characters. I think really, really well.
yeah,
And so I feel like, especially with Lex Luthor's character, I feel like he can fit that mold like perfectly.
yeah, definitely. Um, One thing with this trailer and like the visual style, the things it borrows from the comics and stuff, I'm super happy that they're not shying away from anything. We don't have Lex Luthor wearing some wig, before he gets his hair taken off, like in
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman.
Or like Superman Returns.
Yeah, that was one of my
Yeah.
big issues when they first, like, not only did they get Mark Zuckerberg, I was already kind of just like whatever.
Hmm.
But then to put like this weird hairpiece on him, I'm like, okay, now you made already like a uphill challenge even harder, because now not only do we have to worry about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, that was already controversial to start with.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you put him in this awful wig. Like, what are we supposed to be thinking when he's talking? Like, who in their right mind is going to be like, oh my God, that's Lex Luthor, you know?
It's a reinterpretation. Just kidding.
So again, like in this trailer, like they're not shying away from that. Like Lex Luthor, he already seems like he's been a part of this universe for a while. I
Hmm.
guess with this whole movie in general, just from the look of it, it looks like we're being dropped into an ongoing existing universe. We're not starting from square one. We're not gonna, have Superman and Lex, first starting out. Like Lex already looks like a well-rounded kind of character. It looks like he's been
Hmm.
around for a while. Same thing with Superman. I That's something that I think was a misstep when it came to DC, and obviously they were trying to catch up with Marvel, and they just kind of started from square one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm like, who doesn't know Superman's story at this point? Why do we have to start back at the beginning? Why do we have to tell this same story again? Everyone knows this story,
Yeah,
you
it's like the
know?
Batman thing where they have to keep showing like his parents dying over and over again in the movies.
Ex- exactly. But anyways,
So
that was
yeah.
just one of the upsides with the trailer in general, that I feel like this universe feels lived in. It feels like it's been existing for a while, and we're just gonna be kind of dropped into this story.
Hmm.
Yeah, I to me that's just such a big upside. Like, because past a certain point, after all these kind of origin stories that have been happening with these multiple characters years, for the past 15, 20 years, doing an origin story again would just feel kind of like, repetitive at this point. Like, not even
Yeah.
in just terms of Superman, but with other superheroes in general. Like, how many origin stories have we had,
Exactly, yeah. And especially with Superman too, because he's like one of the more popular ones, it's like we've already kind of had his backstory many, many times already.
Um, so the trailer cuts to after the whole Lex Luthor, you see LexCorp,
Looks
you see Superman
fantastic.
breaking out of that containment. Yeah, it looks fantastic. We get something that, to me, this is what Superman is about. We get a kid raising a flag with Superman's S on it, and you
Hmm.
can just tell he's like in this. I don't know if it's like a war zone. I don't know exactly what's going on, but this kid is just whispering to himself, Superman, you know? And man, does that really kind of inspire that feeling with Superman, which is hope. You know, that's what Superman is meant to embody. You know, that little kids, people in those extreme situations can, you know, look up to someone like Superman. So seeing that in this trailer, very short, but man, does it say a lot as to what this movie is trying to get across. You know, we're meant to feel hopeful with this character. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like we're going through the motions with a Batman story. You know, Batman's darker. He's about vengeance. He has those themes that are a lot darker.
Mhm.
This feels like it's true to Superman's character. Um, just again, the very short scenes, and then past that, we get the other side of a figure like this. If Superman did exist, like there would be people who look down on him. Like it has this shot of
Protesting
him
almost,
walking.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like walking through this crowd, and people are, they seem like they're pissed off at him. Like they
Mhm.
throw shit at him, and you can just tell like there's controversy around him as well, you know. Wallied, what do you think of those couple shots, like with the kid, with Superman walking through the crowd and everything? What kind of emotions, I guess, were you feeling?
I was definitely kind of feeling like there's the side of the hopeful Superman, but then there's also the side of like the people who are against Superman and maybe see him as like an like alien almost, or just like an unknown thing that could probably turn at some point. But I love to see like that like different side of how people view Superman, and I think the trailer
Yeah.
perfectly encapsulated that in just like those few
Hmm.
couple of shots. And I'm excited to see when the film comes out to see how James Gunn's going to explore that, you know, to kind of see that
Yeah.
different compare and contrast of how people view Superman. So I really really loved that.
And I hope that he goes all the way with it. You know, I just don't want the bare kind of face value kind of stuff. I want, like, that was my one problem, or not my one of my many problems with the DCU's interpretation of
Mhm.
Superman. I felt like it was just like kind of like scenes, you know, and they would just kind of play out and then they would just kind of fizzle, you know,
Yeah.
and I feel like they didn't really delve too deep into those themes, probably because they were just concerned with setting up all the other Justice League
Yeah,
members,
they were
you
kind of
know.
more in a big rush
um
to compete with the MCU, you know. That and the many other issues, of course,
exactly.
that we could get into, but yeah.
Yeah. So again, just at face value, it looks like that's what he's doing with this story,
Mhm.
you know? And one of the things that I want to touch on that James Gunn mentioned when this first movie was getting talked about is Superman is meant, he's a character that represents
Yeah.
kindness, you know? And this story is pretty much, what if you had kindness in a world that sees kindness as old fashioned, you know? Um, to me, that really sounds thought provoking. You know, we are kind of in a world right now where being kind and stuff, that's just something that is not really at the forefront of our thoughts when we go out, you know, day to day throughout our lives and
Mhm.
things. So that speaks to me, for James Gunn to kind of focus on that part of Superman. You know, he's Superman's gonna have struggles in this movie, but focusing on the fact that Superman is a kind
Yeah,
person.
and
You know, he wants to do what's best for everyone.
mhm.
You know, that to me is an important side to show, especially if you're trying to differentiate from all the past Superman we've seen. Because honestly, the the last time Superman really felt kind of hopeful was in, you know, back in the day with Christopher Reeves. It's been that
Jeez.
long, you know.
Yeah. It
But yeah, that's something that spoke to me, when James Gunn was first talking about this movie, and man, do you feel it in this trailer.
yeah, and I
um
feel like
so then we get a couple of, oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say, and I feel like now I think it's more important to have like an optimistic view of like a superhero, especially because it's like especially with the past few years, it's like they kind of lean more to like the negative side of like superheroes, or they kind of show it in like a grounded reality where it's like everything kind of sucks, but it's nice to kind of see like a hopeful direction, especially with like a Superman, especially with all the evil Supermans, quote unquote, that you've been seeing from the past like few years with like
Oh
the
God,
Homelanders and like, the
exactly.
Omni-Mans and things like that.
And Invincible. Yep.
So,
Like I didn't mind it for a bit, but it kind of got to the point where I was like, is this all we're doing?
mhm.
Like and especially like with the DCEU, like Zack Snyder in that second movie, he's already teasing evil Superman. And I was like, we haven't even gotten to see normal Superman. Why are we already jumping the gun and we're going to do evil Superman? Like we barely had any time to have Clark Kent feel like a normal person, and already you're teasing that he's the end of the world. I was like, really? Man, did that
Yeah, I was
piss
like,
me
wow, this
off.
is really quick. Yeah, but anyways, yeah.
And then past this point, we get a couple shots, a very brief, of Nathan Fillion as
Oh
Guy
man,
Gardner,
I
Green
I
Lantern.
was shocked. I couldn't believe they showed him in the trailer. I was like, no way, he's in this.
I didn't think they were going to
It's
show him
like,
either, but man, does he look great. Nathan Fillion obviously is very close friends with James Gunn. He had those little cameos in the Guardians films and
yeah, and the
things like
Suicide
that.
Squad, he was great.
But when I heard he was cast as Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, oh man, I was just so happy. And seeing him in this, he's got that wig on. He looks ridiculous, but Nathan Fillion is just, to me, if you add him to any movie, it's an upside. Like I'm
On
already
board,
like,
yeah.
yes, that exactly. And I was really happy to see him in this trailer. Granted, it's only a couple shots, it's very brief. But for me, again, it's kind of ties to what I was saying. The universe feels like it's been existing for a while. They're not afraid to show some of these other heroes like Green Lantern, like Hawk Girl. They have their brief cameos
Mhm.
in the trailer. However, it really helps this movie to feel not as just a starting point.
Exactly.
We're kind of we're rolling with the thought that you guys have seen comic book movies. You don't need this stuff explained. You don't. I mean, eventually, I feel like they will delve into these characters, but you don't. We don't need to start from
Yeah, it's
square
a good
one.
introduction, for this movie at least. And I was
Mhm.
surprised they showed Hawk Girl in the trailer also. I was like, damn, she looks great. I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
what approach they're gonna take with Hawk Girl.
Wallied, I guess a question I'll ask you is, are you feeling nervous at all? Because that's something that I have heard is people are kind of nervous with the amount of characters that could be popping up in this movie. Um, is that something that worries you
Mhm.
as kind of like, what if there's too many characters in this movie? Is that something that you are kind of cautious about?
At first, I was a little nervous when I did hear like Hawk Girl and like a few of the other DC characters were gonna be in it, but I feel like now that I'm kind of seeing the trailer, I am definitely curious to see how they'll play a role in the film. So I will just say
Mhm.
for now, I'm gonna be optimistic and just kind of wait and see. I wouldn't say I'm
Yeah.
too worried, especially because I feel like Superman has so many super friends, and especially like we were talking about, it's not going to be like at square one. So I'm definitely curious to see
Mhm.
how they'll kind of play a part in his like either relationship or how they'll maybe meet and things like that. So I think for me,
Mhm.
I'm pretty excited to see where it's going to go with these new like
Yeah.
characters and everything.
And for me in general, like one of the upsides to James Gunn is he handles multiple characters really, really
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
They all get their moment. They all have their story. So if it was any other director, I might be nervous. But the fact that it's James Gunn, I'm like, no, I think he has a plan for why these characters are in this story.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't Zack Snyder getting handed a bunch of characters and he's trying to find a way to make this all work. No, this is a guy who not only does it very well, but I would say excels at it.
Mhm.
He handles multiple characters very, very well. You know, it doesn't feel just pointless, like, oh, that's just a cameo, that's just this, you
Yeah, they
know.
all
They
play
all
a
have their moment.
mhm. Yeah, they all play an essential role in some way, shape, or form, which I really love about a lot of his movies, especially his superhero ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I will say the second half of the trailer is focusing on what I think the cornerstone of this movie is going to be about.
Hmm.
Um, the story between Clark Kent, Superman, and Lois Lane. Lois Lane is being played by Rachel Brosnahan. I believe that's how you say her name.
Hmm.
Um, and throughout the second half of this trailer, they have multiple shots of them together. They have the second part of the trailer ends with both of them. You know, so I think while a lot of the flashier stuff, you know, Green Lantern, Hot Girl, Crypto, all that stuff is there, I think this story is very much going to be focused on Superman, Lois, and Lex. You know, that's the cornerstone of what this movie is about. Um, and I feel like because they chose to kind of end the trailer with these shots and stuff, like that to me is what you're meant to kind of take away is all right, Superman, Lois, Lex, this is what we're here for. You know,
Hmm.
like it very much is just going to be a Superman story. You know, this isn't Justice League Part 1 with all these characters in it. You know, this isn't a Justice League prequel. This is a Superman story with these other characters in it. You know,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
Wallied, are you excited for a character like Lois? I know she wasn't really treated the best in some of the past movies and stories. Um, how do you feel about that?
You have no idea. I am super excited for them to hopefully explore Superman and Lois Lane's relationship because I feel like there's been times in like at least in the past couple of films where it just feels kind of forced or I don't feel like it's really fleshed out all that well. But it makes
Hmm.
me happy to hear, and especially seeing the shots in the second half of the trailer where they're teasing towards it, and I'm very excited to see their relationship because that's always been one of my favorite things about Superman is his relationship with Lois Lane, and I feel like it hasn't really been done
Hmm.
well in the films, at least the ones I've watched. So I'm very, very
Yeah.
excited to see how this will play out and everything.
Hmm. And I feel like James Gunn handles that stuff in a unique way. Like I will say the way Peter Quill and Gamora's
I was gonna
relationship
say,
evolved
yeah,
throughout the Guardian stories felt very different. You know, it didn't feel like a standard kind of, you know, love interest storyline. Like, especially with the third movie, they totally went in a direction that I wasn't even thinking they were going to do. And it surprised me, you know?
yeah, and it was a nice like
Um,
conclusion and arc to that romance too. Also,
Exactly. Um, and throughout the rest of this trailer, there's some other great spectacle shots. You have like this monster breathing fire. You have Superman with like this robot. You have the Fortress of Solitude like rising out of the ground. You have so many different eye catching shots that I think all just kind of lend to what this first trailer is supposed to be,
mhm.
just setting the tone of the movie. You know, we don't need story right now. I don't need the complete story of what this movie's about. I just need to feel the tone of not only this Superman movie, but what this new DC universe is going to feel like.
Yeah.
And honestly, the way I'm feeling hopeful. You know, I'm feeling hopeful about this interpretation. Like, you have no idea what this means to me as being a DC fan, more so than I am a Marvel fan. The past 10 years for me have been really rough as a DC fan.
Rough's an understatement.
And this, exactly. And this trailer is just giving me a very sincere sense of hope and really just makes me excited to be a DC fan and to be excited for this movie. And I feel like James Gunn knows how to please both the fans and the general audiences really, really well. So they couldn't have picked a better guy. I guess Waleed, overall tone wise, how are you feeling about Superman and the DC universe in general?
I'm very excited with James Gunn taking over the DCU or the DC universe now. It's very refreshing. And I was even thinking about it watching the trailer to this Superman movie, and it was just like, it feels nice to be like excited about a DC film again, and especially a Superman movie. You know, these past 10 years with just has been just misses and misses. Obviously, I liked Shazam. I liked James Gunn's Suicide Squad film, but that's like two
Yeah.
movies out of like 20, and like most of them weren't great, especially that awful Flash movie was like the most
The
disappointing.
Aquaman movies.
Yeah, the Aquaman movie, which actually was okay, but yeah, the Flash was just like so disappointing to me. But with James Gunn coming
Mhm.
in and with him going for a more lighthearted tone and kind of doing a mix of like the campy but also like heartfelt stuff that I was kind of mentioning earlier when we were talking about Superman earlier on the podcast,
Yeah.
it's nice to see that again. And especially I feel like that works for DC also, because I feel like a lot of those stories
Mhm.
are pretty campy and pretty like heartfelt too, you know? They have like a really great blend of blending those, and it's nice to see it like in a movie form again, you know?
Exactly. I always kind of see movies, especially in today's day and age, the way general audience view movies, they're very much their whole kind of viewpoint on these universes. You know, sometimes that's what's gonna happen is general audiences, they go to see the movies. You know,
Mhm.
like they might watch, you know, an animated TV show movie, or they might watch some of the live action shows. But I feel like their whole kind of relationship with this universe just it revolves around movies, live action storytelling. You know,
Mhm.
as much as I would love audiences to read comics and do things like that, sometimes they don't get that. You know, sometimes they just can't get invested in that medium.
Yeah, for sure.
So seeing again the live action movies over the past years not being done in the best way, really just I feel like soured the general audience's relationship with DC.
Mhm.
I feel like that's the main reason why the last, you know, four DC films just totally bombed, is because these movies were not set up well, you know.
Yeah.
And for James Gunn to come along and start fresh, as much as, you know, it did kind of make me a little upset because obviously I love Henry Cavill. I love some of the casting that they had in those movies.
Mhm.
He very much needed to start fresh, you know, like it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have felt like a new take if we had some of those old actors come into this new role, you know. So again, I feel like him doing that was a very obviously ballsy decision. We're gonna see if it's gonna pay off.
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
think it is, judging by this trailer. But James Gunn has a lot of weight on his shoulders right now. The whole DC universe is riding on the success of this movie. This movie has to do well. This movie has to connect with audiences. I mean, again, the past 10 years is just proof that if you don't do it right, you are screwing yourself over for the next 10 years. You're screwing yourself over for whatever films you have planned later on down the line.
Mhm.
You know,
And I think,
those DC movies, because they started bad, the audience was never really able to recover and reconnect, you know?
yeah.
So yeah, I just feel like he has a big weight on his shoulders, but I think he's gonna pull it off.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is like, especially with the DCEU, it was kind of clear there wasn't really any direction, especially after the Justice League
Mhm.
thing and that whole fiasco. You know, it just kind of seems like we were like on autopilot a lot of the time, and it was just like, I don't really know what they're setting up. Like they would set things up, and then like the projects would end up just getting canceled or just ended up getting
Yep.
canned like last minute, you know. So yeah, I'm hoping to God that doesn't happen with this, and I hope this movie is like really, really great and it does super successful because just from seeing the trailer, you know, if this is the direction it's gonna take, like count me in, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. This feels, again, this feels like we're going in a new direction for comic book movies, you know. the universe, the way it looks, it feels very much like a comic book. Like we're not doing the same live action what if superheroes existed in our world, which I feel like is just kind of tiresome at this point.
Yeah.
And we get someone like James Gunn who's going to embrace the comic side of things. You know, he's not going to be afraid to put in Crypto, to put in Mr. Terrific, to put in Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, Hawk Girl. You know, like he's embracing all of that.
Mhm.
And not only that, he's giving love to iconic characters like Lois Lane, like Lex Luthor. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
as long as they're not the backseat, I feel like he's gonna show people what these characters are actually worth. You know,
Mhm.
that was such a disappointing thing to see people not like Lex Luthor in the DCEU. And they're just like, he's kind of like a joke, you know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, the character is so much more than that. The character is thought provoking. He's intimidated,
Yeah.
and just to see them fail, it's like, nope, now that's their interpretation of Lex Luthor. So
Yeah. I
um
think this movie will do it
again, like
justice, though. I think it'll be way
I
better
think
than that
so.
Jesse Eisenberg one. No offense to Jesse, but just, yeah.
Exactly. So again, I think the job of a first trailer
Killed
is
it.
always just setting up the tone.
Yeah.
You got to set up the tone for what this movie is. And I feel like this trailer just absolutely succeeded. I feel hopeful. I'm already counting down the days to the next trailer. I'm counting down the days to the movie. Um, I am just fully ready to see what James Gunn has planned. And man, it was just such a great thing today. Like seeing this trailer as a Superman fan, as a DC fan. I feel hopeful. And to me, that is exactly what I wanted. And I couldn't be more happy. Like to me, this is already looking like a win. I don't want to jump the gun too early. The movie could suck. We don't know. But again, just the trailer, they nailed it. They got it, and man, I'm so excited for more. I just can't wait. Wallied, I guess overall thoughts on everything.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not a big trailers guy usually. But this was the one exception I made because I've been hearing so much about the project for the past year. And I feel like the more and more I was hearing about it and now just seeing the trailer, it's just like my excitement levels are like through the roof. And I'll be there like opening weekend to go and see it.
exactly.
And just already it's like again, like I was saying, it's like it's nice to be excited about a DC film again. It gives me
Hmm.
so much faith for what superhero films could be, especially with the MCU kind of being in a weird state, and especially with James Gunn taking over the DCU. It's like I am just super excited to see what direction we're gonna be seeing the DC universe in, and especially Superman, and seeing like a new interpretation, that we haven't seen at least
Hmm.
in a while. And so this trailer just exceeded my expectations. It looks fantastic. Again, I love
Hmm.
just the music that's in the trailer. I love that it doesn't give anything away, and I love the
Hmm.
way it like reveals like the new different characters and things like that. So yeah, my excitement levels are just through the roof, honestly, and I'm just like so curious and excited even more to just see it when it comes out in theaters.
Hmm. Well, overall, this was a win. I didn't think we were going to get a trailer until at least Super Bowl time,
Oh
so
yeah,
I'm
huh, yeah.
very happy that we're ending the year off with this trailer. Again, it worked for me on every level as a Superman fan, as a DC fan. If you guys haven't watched it, please go check it out. Unless you're trying to avoid trailers, I don't know, maybe make an exception because this for me is just I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, my body's ready.
um, exactly, my body is ready. So check it out. Let us know what you guys think. And hopefully you enjoyed this kind of impromptu kind of trailer reaction. We might be doing more stuff like this. I just couldn't wait. I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't wait until Saturday for us to record. I had to get it out today. Like I am excited, and I want everyone else to hopefully be excited with me. And if you're not, it sucks. I feel like you're gonna miss out on something great.
Sorry.
um, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us on this special episode. And hopefully we'll be doing this more in the future. But I thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Alrighty. Good day and good night, mates.
Have a good one.